Alright, so the question says, Anne, Barb, and Carl are trading cards. At first, Anne gives Barb 2/5 of her cards. Then Barb gives Carl 1/3 of her cards. Finally, Carl gives Anne 3/5 of his cards. At this point, Anne, Barb, and Carl end up with 12, 8, and 4 cards respectively. How many cards did each have in the beginning? Right? I'm going to make each sentence a different color, not the first one. We don't need to know that it's not very important that they're trading cards. Here we go. Second sentence will be a different color. How about a darker yellow? Right? Carl gives Anne. I'll make it green. Right, this big sentence over here, that'll be blue this time. Blue, there you go. Perfect. To do this, I'm going to make a table. I'm going to center everything in the table as well. And write their names. Anne, Barb, Carl. Okay, we're going to work backwards. It says Anne has 12, Anne has 12, Barb has 8, and Carl has 4. That's not the right place for that 4. There we go. Now, since we're working backwards, we're doing the green sentence first. But since it says in the blue sentence they ended up with 12, 8, and 4, I'm going to turn the 12, 8, and 4 blue. Now, it says Carl gives Anne 3/5 of his marbles. Okay, but that means he ends up with 2/5, because 3/5 and 2/5 equals 1 whole, 5/5. That means those 2/5 must be 4 cards. And to represent the fifths, I'm going to draw a circle. If I could get this to stay still for me. There we go. And a circle that's big enough. And I'm going to divide it into 5 parts. These aren't perfectly equal, but I mean them to be. I mean them to be equal fifths. Now it says, is in the green part, Carl gives Anne 3/5 of his cards. So I will highlight 3 of those fifths. Now my highlighting will not be perfect, but I mean it to be. I just want to highlight 3 of those fifths. There we go. Now it says that we know that Carl ends up with 2/5. And we know now in the last blue sentence, it said he ended up with 4 cards. That means those 4 cards must represent 2/5. So since there are 2/5 and 4 cards, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that means each piece must represent 2. 2 cards, of course. Now that means these pieces, the ones he gave to Anne, are also 2. There we go. Now, since we're working backwards to find the original amount they had in the beginning, I'm going to give those 3/5 back to Carl. 3/5, 1, 2, 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So I'm going to do 4 plus 6 for Carl. Plus 6, that equals 10. And of course, now we have to take away 6 from Anne. 12 minus 6 equals 6. There we go. Barb had no part of this question, so she wasn't even in it. She didn't give any, she didn't receive any, so her number remains the same, which is 8. Also, going to get rid of the fraction drawing now. Bye. And going to change this into the right color, which is green, for the green sentence. There we go. Now the yellow part. It says, Barb, then Barb, but we're working backwards. So I'm going to just say, Barb gives Carl 1/3 of her cards. Alright, so if Barb gave Carl 1/3, that means she must be left with 2/3. She's also left with 8 cards. So that means those 2/3 must be 8. I'm going to make another fraction drawing to represent those thirds. Alright, I'll divide it into 3 pieces because it's thirds. Oh, that's not the right thing. It's really crooked. I'll fix that later. This is better. Now these parts aren't equal, but I mean them to be again. Now it says that in the yellow part that Barb gave Carl 1/3. So I'm going to highlight 1/3, this tiny piece here. Even though I mean them to be equal, I'll just highlight this one. There we go. All right. Now it's Barb is left with 8 cards. That means those 8 cards have to be those other 2/3. There's 2/3 and 8 cards. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that means each third represents 4 cards. So I will write 4 in each of those thirds. This one too. There we go. Now we have that. We're going to give Barb back that 1/3. So I'm going to do 8 plus 4, which is 1/3, equals 12. Now, Carl, we need to take away his 1/3, which is 4. 10 minus 4 equals 6. And remains the same. She had no part in this question. She didn't give anything. She didn't receive anything. She wasn't in this part. I'm going to get rid of the fraction drawing again. There we go. And I'm also going to change this yellow to match the yellow part of the sentence that we're doing for this row of numbers. There we go. And if we're working backwards, the red sentence is the final one we need to do before we check our work. We should have the answer in this part. Now it says, Anne gives Barb 2/5 of her cards. All right, so if Anne gave Barb 2/5 and she has 6 left, that 6 is those remaining 3/5. I'm making another fractions drawing. There we go, that's big enough circle. It's fifths. So I need to divide it into 5 parts. Very crooked. Not very even. There we go. This is a bit better, actually. Make this a bit smaller. Extend this one a bit. Oh, I don't really need to make it that perfect. It's okay. Okay, just make these 2. There we go. All right, now those are the 2/5. Now, she gave Barb 2/5 and is left with 6. That means 6 is those remaining 3/5 that she has. 6 divided by 3, because there are 3 parts, is 2. So each part must represent 2. 2 cards, of course. There we go. And these ones too. Good enough. There we go. And of course, we need to take those 2/5 back from Barb. So 2/5 is 4, so 6 plus 4 equals 10. Barb, I'm going to need to take away that 4. 14, nope, 10 minus 4 equals, nope, she had 12, sorry. 12 minus 4 equals 8. And Carl remains the same. He had no part in this question. I'm going to get rid of that other fractions drawing. There we go. Also going to make this red, because it's the red part of the question. Now that we have our answers, 10, 8, and 6, I'm just going to write them here, 10, 8, 6. All right, so I'm just going to delete all of this on the table. Or not, I can't just delete them all at once. Let's get rid of this, that, because I don't want to get rid of the table. I'm going to actually need that to check my work. There we go. And had 10, because now we're working forwards. We're just doing the question. And of course, it's red. That's actually the right color. And 6, of course. Now where's the 6? There we go. We don't need this anymore. Goodbye. All right. So it says Anne gives Barb 2/5 of her cards. If we divide 10 into 5 parts, each part will have 2. Each part will represent 2. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So that's 10 minus 4. Then we have here Barb. She is getting 4. Well, I didn't even write the answer to 10 minus 4 equals 6, of course. 8 plus 4, because she's getting those, is 12. And Carl remains the same. He had no part of this. Why isn't it in the middle? That's odd, actually. There we go. That's better. I'm also going to change this black. We don't really need the colors. All right, so now the yellow line, it says Barb gives Carl 1/3 of her cards. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And 1 times 4 is, of course, 4. So that means 12 minus 4 for Barb. That equals 8. And Carl is getting that 4. He has 6 right now, plus 4 equals 10. Okay. So, and Anne remains the same. She had 6 before. She still has 6. Okay, so now we're on the green line. It says, finally, Carl gives Anne 3/5 of his cards. Carl right now has 10. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Now 3 times that 5. 3 times 2, of course, is 6. That's 6. That's 10 minus 6, because that's 3/5. Equals 4. Now, and it's plus 6 for her. 6 plus 6 equals 12. Barb remains the same. Now, it says on the blue part that Anne, Barb, and Carl ended up with 12, 8, and 4 in that order. Well, Anne has 12. Why don't I? Yeah, I'll make it a different color, actually. A red, that'll stand out. Anne has 12. Barb has 8. And Carl has 4, just like it said in the blue line. So we know our answer is correct. Why can't I highlight this 4? There, so our answer, Anne had 10 originally, Barb had 8, and Carl had 6 originally. So we know our answer is correct.